If your approach to continuous improvement is to chase quick fixes, then you're taking the wrong approach. In today's episode, my guest, Chad Bareithner, and I talk about the importance of building a firm foundation on which to build your continuous improvement culture, and we talk about the fundamental components of what that takes. Welcome to Mic Drop Insights and Lessons from CI Thought Leaders. My name is Gary Cox. I'm your host. I'm also the author of the book, Cultivating Champions of CI, a leader's toolbox for creating a continuous improvement culture. Let's jump into the discussion that Chad and I had.
When I first moved out of corporate and into independent consulting, and I was working with a couple of clients that I had, pulled together from referrals, past colleagues, things of that nature. And it turned out one client I was servicing was really focused in understanding their strategy and doing strategy deployment. One was really interested in just visualizing the business and putting in place a daily management system. And one, I was training and mentoring teams in continuous improvement problem solving. And it just so happens one of those clients would get good at one thing and we'd need the other, right? So okay, we got our strategy. Now we got to improve processes. We have our daily management. Now we know the problems. Now we got to improve processes. We can improve processes, but we're not strategically aligned. And so I was like, man, if I could start over, client, ideal state, your perfect client, what would I do? And so I'm it would be this 5-step process that I would go through, and you would need each of these components. You would need strategy to align the organization and focus on the right opportunities. You would need a standardized approach to continuous improvement so you can collaborate across functions and you can only be working on the most important things. And then you need a system of daily management to sustain and hand that off into operations. So it's no longer strategic improvement, it's stabilizing and supporting that just as how we run the business. It's not a program anymore. It's just how we work. So I was documenting all of this and I was working with a business coach trying to get launched. And he's like, you should just turn this into a book. And I'm like a book? I don't know how to do that. So I got some other coaching on that and was able to document it. And it's my approach, right? So if anyone would want to know what it's like to work with a member of my team, is this is the same approach we take with every organization. And those 5 steps of, why we're engaging, what we hope to accomplish, how we plan to get there, who's accountable for what, and when we are going to have those touch points, kind of check the pulse on how everything's going. We move through all of those. And you go through each 5 phases. You might not be in each phase for the same amount of time. Some organizations we work with have a good handle on strategy and they're ready to move into improvement. Some are trying to jump into improvement and we need to pull them back and say, I don't really understand strategically where you're trying to go. So we move through the same 5-step process, and that makes it easy for our clients to understand, easy for us to deliver. And like I said, we're very focused and aligned, so we get results.
Well, that's really interesting, Chad, because in my own book, Cultivating Champions of CI, I cover 8 elements as it relates to creating a continuous improvement culture. Very similar approach to what you use. And for me, I always say I'm trying to put myself out of work when I work with a client, right? In that you're trying to develop their capability and capacity to be able to do this on their own. And if you're in the business to help them do that, then you're in it for the right reasons. Let's talk a little bit about some of the obstacles that you come up against, because we probably come across the same types of obstacles. I don't think they're foreign to businesses, that when they come into this whole idea, you talk about having people jump in for improvement, they don't have a strong strategy or they don't have a goal. So what are some of the other obstacles that you've come across?
Yeah, so it's interesting since you mentioned improvement. I was going one way and then you made me think of this because I just had a conversation last week with a client about this. Is pursuing improvement before we have standardization, and maybe pursuing standardization before we have stability. So for this particular client, when you have weekly volumes, so your order volumes are fluctuating dynamically. So then you're actually trying to run processes at different rates to I don't know, make hours or whatever. It's no, we need to stabilize, right? And we need to make sure that we're running consistently before we can standardize, or else your standard doesn't make any sense. And then how are you going to improve if you're not running it the same way every day? So I think from that illustration, people kind of parachute into the improvement of they pick up a copy of the Toyota Way or whatever, and they're just it's a vehicle to improve my process. It's but I think you skipped over the first 30 years of stability that they invested in all this, stabilization and standardization lead to the continuous improvement. But I feel like we want to a connection from LinkedIn that just posted, they call it like Ozempic Lean, right? I want the quick diet fad.
Right. Yes, I saw that one. Yes.
Get me right to the improvement. It's like, but there's like foundation work. And I understand. I understand from the client's perspective. I worked with enough of them. Like, it doesn't sound very sexy to say like standardization and discipline and then improvement, right? But you have to, and that's part of why we say improve less. It's like, let's prove to you and prove to your employees that you're committed to this, that you can do it and get the results. Otherwise, it's like this flash in a pan improvement. And then you actually have more of that change management curve to overcome, because you're building cynics, not advocates.
That's a really good point. The building a cynic versus an advocate. You want to build advocates. And so, what's been some of your strategies for doing that in a pointed way? If you're getting value out of this episode of Mic Drop Insights and Lessons from CI Thought Leaders, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, add your comments. I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, so it's I really like a lot of what Russ Akoff taught and spoke about in terms of systems thinking. So we look at everything as a system and a process. And I may not use that language exactly like we're going to now map out your systems and your processes, but it's leading through kind of like with Socratic questioning to get the client and the individual project leads to this awareness of I do need to stabilize. I do need to understand the processes that are at play, right? I can't sub-optimize. I can't be running, one piece of equipment in the middle of this value chain at max capacity if it's not getting me anything else out of that. But like, I can tell them that, but I need to lead them to that conclusion. And so how do we do that is we use things like system and process. A tool we use is a KPI, key performance indicator tree, of saying like, what are we trying to get? And then like, so what are the requirements you need to get there? What are your enabling processes? Lo and behold, most of them, there is no process to deliver that requirement. So like, I need a production schedule. Great. What's your process for producing a production schedule? Right. And they kind of tilt their head like a dog staring at the radio, right? It's like, I don't understand what you just asked me. It's like, okay, well, that's a process we probably need to develop. And so that's a simple example of the process that we go through in an engagement, but we need them to understand is it can't just be working harder, and it can't just be leadership like wanting the improvement. We actually have to invest in the discipline, and it kind of leads to the next thing is leadership changing their behavior as well.
Well, if you got value out of that episode, you're certainly going to want to click subscribe and listen to more great insights and lessons from CI Thought Leaders. Until next time, make sure you like, subscribe, and add your comments. I'd love to hear them.